Hi, and welcome to Stories and Scribes. My name is Jemima, and I'm so glad and excited to be here. I just want to say thank you to everyone who has subscribed to my channel and likes, made comments, given me feedback, and have activated their notification bell so that you're notified on the new videos that are uploaded to this channel. So one of the things that I am dedicated to doing, I'm committed to doing through this channel, is to share with you the lessons and the values and the principles I learned through reading Christian fiction books, and how they interact with the characters in the book to bring to life, the weight and the spirit and the thought behind some of these principles and some of these values and some of these things that we apply to our everyday life as Christians. And another thing I'm also committed to doing is to bring and introduce to you new authors that are in the Christian fiction space that are doing amazing work. I know that in the last videos that I have done, I've introduced new people to you, and I'm going to introduce someone else to you. Now, this book is what we call biblical fiction, which is something that is totally amazing because it brings to life some of the depths and some of the characters, some of the import of what living in those days, in the biblical days, are or were. And this writer, amazing writer, is Eileen Smith. Wow, isn't this cover beautiful? Like, when I first saw it, I couldn't take my eyes off it. And this is Redeeming Grace by Eileen Smith. And this is the story of Ruth. Like, in the times and in the books I've read, Christian fiction, I've never really read about the story of Ruth. We've read of Rahab, we've read of other women, Mary, we've read of Mary Magdalene, we've read of Martha, we've read, which other popular woman have we read of? We've read quite a number of women in the Bible. And Ruth is someone that we really haven't really read about. So when I saw this, I was like, wow, I have to read it. And guess what? We also read it in the book club I belong to, Divas Read, which is an online Christian fiction book club, growing and amazing women doing awesome things there. Okay, so I can't get over this. Like, it's amazing. The pictures are so beautiful, so beautiful. It really draws you to reading the book. Yeah, so let's get to the synopsis and see what the book is all about. When famine visits Bethlehem, Boaz holds out hope for rain while his relative Elimelech moves his wife Naomi and their sons to Moab. For a while, it appears that the Lord is blessing Elimelech's family, and his sons marry two Moabite women. But calamities strike one after the other, leaving Naomi alone in a foreign land with only her childless daughters-in-law for comfort. When news reaches Naomi that the famine in Bethlehem has lifted, only Ruth will hazard the journey to her mother-in-law's homeland. Destitute and downhearted, Naomi resigns herself to a life of bitter poverty, but Ruth holds out hope for a better future, and Boaz may be the one God has chosen to provide it. Combining meticulous research with her endless imagination, Eileen Smith gorgeously renders one of the most beautiful stories in scriptures. Readers will adore this third installment of the Inspiring Daughters of the Promised Land series. This book was good. And even in the discussion in the book club, there was a lot to talk about. Okay, so we know the story. Anytime we read about Ruth, we must always read about Elimelech and Naomi and the tragedy that struck them. So when Bethlehem, in the time of the children of Israel, there was famine. There was no water, like no rain had fallen. And without rain, the crops cannot survive. You won't have a good harvest. You won't have a good planting season, not to talk of a good harvest. And Elimelech was wondering, my family has to feed. And the rate at which this famine is going, I don't know at what point the grains that we've already harvested is going to last us and how much we're going to do it. But Naomi and Boaz, Naomi was still, she still believed that, God that has kept them, God that has birthed them, God is still able to provide for them, to sustain them. And Boaz was like, we all know, was a wealthy man, and he had crops, he had servants, he had people to feed, relatives and all of that. And as a community, how the children of Israel did. So Elimelech could not wait. So he told his wife, let's go to Moab, because I heard that there is a lot in Moab. There was rain, the famine was not hitting them. So Elimelech moved Naomi and his sons to Moab. So one of the things that struck me was Naomi, his wife, believed that God was still going to have mercy on them. Boaz also believed that God was still going to have mercy on them. But what was different about Elimelech? Why didn't he trust that God was still going to bless them? Why didn't he trust that God was able to make rain pour? Why didn't he trust that God would still keep and uphold them even in the time of famine? And he left. And that one of the things that it was very clear in the commandments and in the conduct of which the children of Israel was that you are not supposed to mix with the Moabites. The Moabites were one of the people that it was clear. Do you understand? When Elimelech went, it was as if everything was going on well. Do you understand? He blended with the people. He got land. Maybe because he had maybe sold his farmland, sold everything, got the money he collected. He had gone to set up his own self, and all of that. Let's see. Don't forget, number one, the Moabites have heard about the children of Israel. So you are entering a land of your enemies and expect them to do well for you. Initially, they will welcome you, Abby. Initially, they would try to accept you. But the truth is that underlining every attitude, every movement, they are watching you. Underlining everything you do, you are still an outsider. And you are still an Israelite, which is a potential threat to whoever they are. At first, they thought they were spies. At first, before they now blended in. And in blending in, they now began to adopt the ways of the Moabites. See, I remember Romans 12:1. Do not be conformed to the world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. Truly, we are in this world. But how much of this world has affected our mindsets? How much of this world has affected the things that we do? The things we now can accept? The things we do not consider. Before we used to have a hard stance on it. But now, with the way media is, with the way the world has changed, with the voices that are contending with the voices that we really have as God's voice, what are we compromising? What are we shifting grounds on? Elimelech shifted grounds. Elimelech did things that his wife Naomi could not understand. He began to shift ground in the principles in which they held as Israelites. He began to shift ground and make compromises where he shouldn't have made compromises on. Now, how do you raise children? How do you raise your family in a land where it is adverse to who you are as a person? Your value system, your beliefs, how you worship the gods you even worship. It just reminds me of a lot of things. How do you go to a land that does not love God? And how do you train your children? How do you ensure that your household is still intact in the things that you believe? How do you uphold the values that you have in spite of what everyone is saying? And the truth is, in the current times that we are in, we are facing a lot of this as a church and as Christians. How do you deal with issues that are coming up? Issues on abortion, issues on lesbian, on the LGBT, issues that come with greed, issues that come with even feminism, issues that come with all of these things that are tainted and that are just opposite of the things that we believe as God's children. And I cannot give, I cannot say categorically, but I know this, that we'll be steadfast in the things that God has said that is. What God says is right is right. What God says is wrong is wrong. And we hold on to the truth that we know that God is saying. Elimelech shifted ground and made compromises for the things, for what to eat, for how to sustain his family, when he could have trusted God. Now, let's go to Boaz. Boaz has a wife, and they've been trusting God for a child. and in the book. And every time she conceives, she loses the child, and she has miscarriages. The last miscarriage that she had almost had her lose her baby, had not lost her baby, and almost lost her life. And Boaz was a faithful man. He followed the law to the letter. So how do you reconcile when you need something desperately from God and you are a faithful person? How do you say always, Lord, thy will be done, when you are not receiving what you desire most from God? And this is one of the questions that Boaz, in the book, that Boaz is asking himself. I'm faithful to you. I am this to you. I obey the Lord to the latter. I give to the poor. I build houses. I take care of this. I do this according to the letter of the law. But yet my own heart desire has been, and after the last miscarriage, his wife couldn't take it. Her spirit was down. Nothing could console her. And she now took to finding comfort in tending sheep. And after a very long day, when she went to look after her sheep, you know how it is when the Bible says that you will leave all your sheep, go and look for the one that was missing. One of her sheep was missing, and she went to look for it, and he was at the cliff. And probably because she didn't understand her environment where she was at that particular time, she fell to her death. How does Boaz handle this? The loss of a child that you desired and you never had, and the loss of the woman that you love. How do you tell God that? How do you go to God in prayer? Because the truth is, your heart will be heavy and there'll be anger. God, I've trusted you. God, I've depended on you. God, I've done this. This is my righteous act, but yet my righteous act has not earned me anything. But the truth is that I've come to realize it is not by works, and it's not by what you have done that qualifies you for God's blessing. It is God's mercy and God's benevolence. See, we cannot say that because I did this or because I did that, that God is that you are entitled to God's blessing. God says, I will have mercy upon whom I have mercy on. And the truth is that God's timing and your timing are two different things. Your expectation and God's expectations are two different things. And the Bible says, as high as the heavens are from the earth, so are my thoughts far from your thoughts. Do you understand? So you do not, it is not a, it is not a right that because I am faithful, because I go to church, because I'm a worker in church, because I give to the poor, because I do this, I am entitled to God's blessing. God's blessing, you will get it because we are children of Abraham and we have Abraham's blessing. But according to God's purpose, his timing, his will, and his love for you, God will deal with you according to his own. So I want us to get that thing off our heads that because I've done this, I'm entitled to God's blessings. We are not. God will have mercy upon whom he will have mercy. And he has a plan. That's the truth. The Bible says, though it will tarry, it will surely come to pass. That thing that God has in plan for you, it will come to pass. It may not look like it, but God has a plan. Do you know that at the end of the day, when you're reading the chronology, the genealogy of Jesus, Boaz's name was there as part of the lineage of Christ. If he had a child with this, would that have even happened? And sometimes because we cannot even see the end product of the end thing that God is trying to do, we now want to truncate the destinies of our lives and the lives of people that God has in store for us for the things that we so desire even now. I just pray that whatever we are trusting God for, that God, you will cause us to align with your purpose, your will, and your timing. And so that's what happened. Now let's go back to Elimelech. You read in the Bible, Elimelech lost his life. He lost his 2 sons within a short period of time. And do you know what amazed me? Do you know what totally amazed me? Do you know that Elimelech did not have any offspring, did not have anybody to carry on his name? So imagine that Elimelech's descendants did not exist again. See, when I read that thing, I was shocked because if you compromise and you deviate from the plan and the will of God, it is as dangerous as wiping your whole generation from the face of the earth. Think about it. Elimelech died. his 2 sons that were to reproduce an heir died without having children. So Elimelech does not have, in the history of life now, Elimelech does not have any heir, does not have any name to himself, does not have anything to himself. See, to compromise your stand and to deviate from God's plan for me is as dangerous as that. And I pray for myself and for you that we will stay in God's line, God's plan, God's will, and God's timing for our lives. That even when famine is there, we will seek God until he has mercy upon us. And we will not compromise our stand for what to eat, where to live, and for our sustenance. Because God is our source and the only one who sustains us. So all of his children had died. Elimelech had died, Naomi. One other thing that struck me was that in the course of the book you read that Naomi was she still held on to her beliefs. She still prayed. She still held on to the values that she had as an Israelite. But it had no direct impact on her children or her husband. In short, it was so much that that when she did, this kind of, your own is too much. They now sidelined her from every major decision that they could have made. Even marrying the Moabite women. If you want to marry, but do not marry a Moabite. What would you do? You will go back to Israel, pick a wife, you can bring them back to Moab. But no, they married Moabites. They didn't have a child. They lost their lives in that place. Naomi now heard that God has restored Israel and there was famine and she had to go back. Do you know how it is to go back to the place where you came from? Everybody knows that your husband had died. Everybody knows that your children have been wiped out. What do you think people will be saying? That God had visited them. Abi? And all of their whole lineage has been wiped out. But when she was about to go, she called her daughter-in-laws. My daughters, there's nothing I can do for you. I am old. And even if I give birth to a son now, you cannot wait for the son to grow up to even marry him. You are free to go. But Ruth said, no. Where you go, I will go. Your people will be my people and your God will be my God. I wondered, what will make a young woman have that kind of heart? Because Ruth and Orpah were the same people. They were from the same Moab. So what was the change? What was the switch in Ruth's life that made her realize that the God of this woman is something I should follow? Number one of the things that I know that switches people off is discontentment. When the way you are following does not produce results in your life or causes you to experience pain that is beyond normal, there is always going to be a shift. See, God is a God of love, which is a central theme in Stories and Scribes. And God will not take from you and cause you pain in that manner. Their God, their gods, Baal, what do you know what they do? They have to sacrifice their children live into fire as sacrifice for the gods to answer them. And that's something that Ruth could not reconcile. How can you give birth to a child, your first child, and by virtue of either corruption or misuse of power, they can nominate your own child as the one that will be sacrificed for the gods? Can you imagine carrying a newborn baby and throwing in fire and you will be there, listening to the cry, how the baby is burning? What kind of God is that? I thank God for our God that is a God of love. And that was one of the things that Ruth saw, that this connected her heart from those kind of God. And when she looked at Naomi, she noticed how her demeanor was, how she worshipped in reverence, how she prayed, how she sought God's face. And in spite of the fact that her children died, how she was still faithful to that God. I'm sure she was not like, see this my God, I beg, I know if you do. Let me follow this, my mother-in-law, to see the kind of God she served. And at the end of the day, we know the story. How God connected Boaz to Ruth, and how Ruth's faithfulness to her mother-in-law and to her mother-in-law's God was the one that helped her. I know that some of us would have like, God forbid, I beg, let me just stay jejely in my Moab. But what is that discontent in your heart that is making you seek God? What is that thing that you're looking around in the world that has not satisfied you? What is that hole in your heart? What is that thing that is making you say, there has to be more to life. There has to be more to my life. All these things I'm doing, all these experiences I'm having. No, there has to be more. There has to be a God who loves me. In spite of who I am, there has to be a God who will sacrifice himself for me and wants me in spite of who I am. And that God is our God. Our God is a God of love. Our God that loves us in spite of who. The Bible says, while we were yet sinners, Christ died for us. See, Jesus came to die for us. The people that he came to die were the ones that willingly sacrificed him. What kind of love is that? What kind of love is that? Another thing that I learned, see, every Ruth needs a Naomi. Every Mary needs an Elizabeth. We need older women that will teach us the things to do. And not just any old woman, and not any woman that is older, wise women. Women that not just have gone through life, understood the mistakes they've made, but have learned the lessons in those mistakes and received wisdom to transfer to others. See this thing that Naomi said you do. And when Ruth followed it, at the end of the day, there was restoration for Boaz. And Ruth was injected into the lineage of Jesus. And I just want to say, this book was amazing. So much to learn, so many lessons to learn. I encourage you to read it. I encourage you to tell me what you think about it. Go online, look for it, search for it. And Sefer Books, an online Christian fiction bookstore, will have it in stock. You should holler at them on Instagram and see if they do have it so that you can read it as well. I recommend this book. This book was amazing. I give it a 5-star because there were so many gems in it. Number one, stay there. Where God has called you to be, stay there. God will keep you. God will sustain you. Don't let little compromises shift you from the will of God. And see, God's expectations, God's timing, God's will might be different from your own timing, your expectation, and your own will. Align. In the end, there is beauty. In the end, there is grace. He said, though it tarries, wait for it. It will surely come to pass. Thank you so much for going through this book with me. I totally loved it. And I hope you also love this review I did. Thank you. Bye. Bye.